Oftentimes we design presentations about what we're going to convey. What we need to do is keep them at the center of the design. What do we need them to know and to help them make the best decision? It's such an opportunity because you know what? 95, 97% of people aren't. So if you master this, it's going to set you apart. It just will.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be absolutely captivating. Our guests today are Dr. Scott Allen and Maria Soriano Young of the Cleveland Clinic. Together, they have co-authored a new book called Captivation, Online Presentations by Design. It's a comprehensive guide to crafting and delivering online presentations. Maria and Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. And I'm excited getting into this conversation. And I really would love for both of you to tell us a little bit about yourselves and your career journeys leading up to this point.
Maria, go for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Maria Soriano Young. When I first wrote this book with Scott, I was the Writing Center Director at John Carroll University, which is a Jesuit university in Cleveland, Ohio. I worked there for 11 years as directing the Writing Center, and I was also doing teaching and administrative work. And then in May of 2021, I decided that it was time to take my career in a new direction. So I now work for Cleveland Clinic, and I am the communication manager for the chair of the Heart, Vascular and Thoracic Institute. So it's a new adventure for me to be part of healthcare, but surprisingly, it's very similar to higher ed in many ways. And both of those environments still are giving me lots to talk about in terms of what we are doing and talking about with online presentations by design. And I'm really excited to continue working with Scott.
And I am Scott Allen. I'm an associate professor of management at John Carroll University, which is in Cleveland, Ohio, USA. And I've been there for about 15 years. And my passion is leadership management. How do we help prepare people to be more successful when serving in these very, very complicated roles, formal or informal leadership roles? And of course, one subset of that whole dialogue of the topic of leadership is communication. And I believe it was May 2020, Maria, if I'm not mistaken, I approached you and I said, hey, this online thing, it's not going anywhere. Why don't we learn quickly? Let's write a book and really explore the space of how we do this well. And of course, the book was released in a few different phases because we have an audio version and a print version and a Kindle version. But really that came out in December of 2020. And it has been a lot of fun because not only has the process helped us learn a lot and reflect ourselves, but it's been fascinating to watch this kind of morph. I mean, I was with Maria last night doing a hybrid presentation. So that's kind of this new space to learn, which is, we've got 7 people in the room, 30 people online. And how do you engage all of those individuals? So that's been, Maria, that's our next book, I guess.
Yes, I think so. I think that's the next wave since work from home and hybrid schedules seem to be here to stay.
Yes.
Well, it is so interesting that, the timing couldn't have been bang on for being a resource that people can use. That is for sure. And so interesting to hear that it's evolving so quickly. And out of that's going to likely be a whole other book that needs to be written to help people navigate through it. Mm-hmm. Over the years, you both have seen likely so many different presentations, both online, offline. What is it that makes the good ones good and the bad ones terrible?
Maria, would you like to start with the good, the bad, or the ugly?
Sure. I would say that it really comes down to the general principle of awareness, and that can relate to good, bad, and ugly. And that also relates to any format as well. When we were writing this book, that was the summer that we were preparing for a fall semester that we had no idea what it was going to look like. So a lot of us were attending webinars, and we were participating in courses. We were just listening to some others. And what set the good apart from those who didn't do too well to some degree is that the people who paid attention to every aspect of their online presentation, that really made a difference. And we could spend another hour talking about everything in that list, but that includes everything from the setting that they were presenting in, to what they were wearing, to the technology pieces that they were using, both microphone and computer, even lighting. Someone who spent time curating that environment, in addition to thinking about what they were presenting. When it was really good, it was great, and it was effective, and it was engaging. When it's not good, all it would take is a presenter who unconsciously rocks back and forth in their chair, coming really close to the computer camera and backing up and, doing that continuously. That really makes a difference to someone who is watching.
Yeah, a word that we use very intentionally in this book is design. Are you designing your setting? Are you designing your technology? Are you designing the structure of your talk? Because if you're designing the structure the same way you would when we're live, we feel you're going to be limited. You're not going to be as successful. Are you designing your delivery? In this medium, we can't move around the way we can live, so certain elements of our presentation become that much more important, like our voice. We just finished a 5, I guess it was, Maria, a 5-part series on the importance of voice, because my voice is one of the primary tools to keep you engaged, to keep you off of your email, to keep the listener distracted and whatever else they have going on. So voice becomes that much more important, and storytelling ability, that vocal variety. So design is something we take very, very seriously. Are our slides designed in a way that really people from a laptop to a desktop to mobile can look at what we're presenting and see? Or is it 1,000 words on a PowerPoint slide that someone who is mobile, maybe they're in their car? We've certainly seen it all, Maria. We've had participants driving in their car, being driven at the beach, you name it, we've seen it.
Yeah.
Can those individuals access the resources as well? So design, it's a key word, and intentionality is a key word. Are you being intentional in this new space about how to succeed? Because you can't replicate what we do when we're live. It's just not, some things can, some things we can't.
We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Hey there, accountants and bookkeepers. It goes without saying our economy has changed, and with it, so have the needs of your clients. Employees are in short supply, and employers are hungry to find, hire, and keep talented people. After all, there is no bottom line without the team who helps drive the business. For accountants and bookkeepers, this means financial support is just one piece of the puzzle. To help your clients' businesses truly thrive, you need to offer guidance around people operations too. Things like health and financial benefits, hiring and onboarding, performance, and all the things that make your clients' workplaces rewarding. Fortunately, Gusto offers accountants and bookkeepers the tools to manage all of this and more. Their comprehensive HR platform, people advisory training programs, and data-driven insights can help make you an irreplaceable asset to the businesses who rely on you. Join Gusto today. Become People Advisor certified, access perks like exclusive discounts and CPE credits, all while growing your practice. Plus, your own payroll is totally free. Just visit gusto.com/The Successful Bookkeeper. That's gusto.com/The Successful Bookkeeper. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. It's interesting. I mean, back in the day when I was growing up, if you wanted to go out into the world to either find a job or show up at your first day of the job or get the promotion, we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about, dress for success.
Yes.
And that's all about planning, plan what outcome are you trying to have. And I think maybe that's a piece of this is that, when we're talking about our listener right now who's running a small, a medium-sized bookkeeping business or wants to grow their bookkeeping business, we're talking about designing the outcome as well, or knowing even if you're going to design something, what's the outcome? Well, why are you presenting something? It could be really easy to just rock up and go, well, it's just online, so I'm just going to turn on this computer thing and turn on the camera and away we go. Well, the outcome might not be desirable.
Exactly.
Yes.
And just a very, very simple example there would be if you don't have your computer linked with an Ethernet cable to your modem or your router at this point, you may be limited because your clients or potential clients may not be able to connect with you because we still see it. We still have people saying, oh, my internet connection's horrible. Well, you know what? That probably you could have addressed that 18 months ago at this point. And so our ability to, as Maria said, be seen. What does your lighting look like? Do you look like a shadowy, dark figure in the background? Or can people actually see you? What does your background say about you? Is your camera high definition? And I don't think we're trying to spend people's money, but what we do want people to be is to be intentional, to design how do we want to show up? Because I think it used to be dress for success. You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's, in the book, we went into the literature on first impressions, and it's milliseconds. I mean, it's milliseconds as far as first impressions go. So online, in this digital domain, can people see you? Can they hear you? Can they connect with you? What does your background say about you? Those are all considerations that we cover in the book.
And I want to jump on that and reflect on what you said, Scott, about being seen. And I want to add on that and say you're seen more. And, if you're thinking about people accessing some kind of meeting with you where they are on a computer or they are on a tablet, maybe not necessarily a phone because phone screens tend to be small, you're magnified. Your computer's going to be closer to your face than the person would be if they're sitting, across the desk from you or across the office. We're curious people. So when we see someone on the other side of the screen, yes, we will be looking at their face and we will be talking to them, but we're also going to be looking at everything else that's on that screen. And that includes, what's in the background, who might be running by the door that's open in the background, like that's going to catch somebody's eye. If you have artwork or books on your shelves or a mess behind you, maybe people are going to see that. So, that goes back to this idea of being intentional about curating your background. You have to think about what don't you want people to see? And, they're going to see it if it's there. So take it out of your background if you would not want something reflected on you when you're showing up on the computer screen.
It's a great point. I mean, I'm very fortunate today because this is audio and you can't see everything. So like we were talking about before the show, I don't have to feel so bad about what my online presentation would look like, but I'm certainly getting some great ideas and I'll be looking at what I do a lot differently. I'm sure our listener right now is thinking the same thing. And I'm curious, we're curating the background, we're curating, the whole, I like what you said about, you don't have to go and spend a lot of money. It sort of goes back to that same dress for success. Doesn't mean you need to go buy a Gucci suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You can do a lot with nothing. It's just being intentional planning, like you say, which is really, I think, a fresh perspective and one that our listener will be appreciative of. We're not asking anybody to spend money. We're asking a little bit of thinking, a little bit of pre-planning, and setting yourself up for success here. I'm curious about, there's Zoom and Google Meet, and they have you can put these different backgrounds in, you can have the blurred vision. I mean, all of that good stuff going on, it's interesting because in some way we're not maybe used to not telling the truth, right? It's like we're not used to doing the television, thing where it's like it's just reality, made up reality. It's like reality television, but it's not really reality.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting point. What has been your experience of? Because a lot of people are using the blurred out, they're using different backgrounds. Like, what's behind that? What's behind that curtain? Should we worry about it?
For me, I think about this, and I have a very distinct perspective. Maria might disagree. And I think back to your previous point about spending money, Maria, is it still true you really haven't spent any money on technology, correct?
No, I have not.
Yeah, she has used what she had in her home, but maybe it's a lamp that's a little closer to the screen. Maybe it's a set of headphones versus just using the computer audio. Now, I spent probably $700 on some box lighting and an HD camera. And so I think you can really take this to extremes. Just go to YouTube and type in home office setup, and you will see people who've gone to the far end of the spectrum. But, so I think that's very, very important. For me, a couple things come to mind with background. One, when it's one of these digital Zoom backgrounds, it webs your hands, your face can look distorted. I'm graying, I'm 49 years old, so I'm graying out, so my head looks all distorted. And I'm personally not a fan of that background. The grayed out kind of white background, it's just meh, right? It's whatever, it's plain. For me, having a background that says something about me, I have some artwork that I love, I have some pictures that I love, I have some books that I love. And again, I've kind of curated that space. So again, when it comes to that first impression, people are saying, oh, okay, he loves the national parks because he has a sign behind him about Olympic National Park. And he has a picture of Amelia Earhart. So that's kind of interesting, that Think Different campaign. And there's a butterfly and there's a picture of his family. Interesting. So it's an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity to tell the listeners in the audience a little bit of something about me. It's not a bland plastic white background that has I'm in my guest bedroom, right? So I could literally touch my guest bed right now, but I've curated a space that's square. That's my new stage. And I have an opportunity to curate the stage. So that's how I think about it. Maria, do you generally agree or do you disagree?
I'll answer that question from two different experience perspectives because I think it relates a lot to your brand and your intended brand. Scott, You were speaking to that in saying, you want people to find that you are authentic. And if I'm doing something personally, like if I'm doing a presentation or if I'm, doing some kind of meeting, speaking to somebody, I have no problem being on my computer with, my office and my background showing. But what I have noticed, particularly with starting work at Cleveland Clinic, is I see a lot more of those digital backgrounds or even just the blurred backgrounds being used. And I think, going back to your original question, Michael, on this use of digital backgrounds, it depends a lot on the organization, the audience, and the purpose.
Yeah.
So, like one-on-one meetings or small team meetings where you're checking in with people, I don't always see my colleagues or my peers using blurred backgrounds or some kind of digital logo background because that's just, checking in with other people. But if it's something that it's perhaps an interview or something going to the media or something connecting with another organization, that's where I often see some kind of, digitally curated Cleveland Clinic background. And, that's a distinct representation of, I am speaking on behalf of this organization to achieve X, Y, or Z purpose. So I think it's, again, when you're factoring in the elements of designing your presentation, we talk about this in our book, considering who is the audience, what is the intended outcome, and choosing, your persona or your brand based on that will kind of help you decide, what is most appropriate for what I'm showing in terms of what appears behind me.
We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our partners. How many of you are making data-driven decisions about your bookkeeping business? Cinder can save you from doing manual data entry from multiple sales channels and automatically generate an accurate P&L report, balance sheet, and inventory management for your business needs. A few clicks, and you'll get access to the key metrics to find the hidden streams of income for your client's business. Use coupon code EASYBOOKS for up to 40% off from the start. And only for our listeners who click the link in the description, Cinder has prepared an actionable business checklist for your success in 2022. Excited? Get free access now on cinder.me/successful bookkeeper. That's SYNDER.me/successful bookkeeper. Are you struggling to secure the right clients? Are you frustrated that prospects are not seeing your value? Well, it's time to change that. Introducing the Convert with Value Workshop Series. It's a 2-day virtual event on March 22nd and 23rd, and for our Australian friends, March 23rd and 24th. You'll learn how to qualify and convert prospects into clients like never before. Plus, you'll discover the power of value pricing, including how to create pricing packages that truly represent your monetary worth. There will be great session leaders such as value pricing experts Ron Baker and Mark Wickersham, and Accelerate to Advisor founder Lisa Campbell. It's a workshop series you don't want to miss. So register now at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/value. That's thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/value. You'll be glad you did. Thank you for hearing from our partners who help make this show possible. Now, let's get back to the interview. It's so interesting. There's just so many parallels back to the dress, right? It's our digital dress, dress down Fridays, right? If it's dress down Fridays and our biggest client's coming in, maybe it's not dress down Friday, it's going to be dress down Thursday, right? It's like choosing appropriately to fit your audience. And I mean, it's so prevalent. I mean, it's everywhere. People are just doing it. They're figuring it out on their own, but there's implications to it. And so this is such a fresh conversation, and probably many of our listeners are thinking that. Now, so we've talked a lot about the technology and what you're putting forward, how you're dressing, your background, the camera, lighting, all that good stuff. Content, do you get into, I mean, you've talked about in your book this audience-centered design of a presentation. Maybe let's go a little bit into that direction.
Great. Exactly. We all know what it feels like to sit in a horribly designed presentation, what it feels like to be a prisoner for an hour, what it feels like to wish you could be somewhere else, anywhere else. We know what that feels like. And so do we keep that audience front and center as we're designing? Or are we putting into something into motion that we wouldn't want to sit through? That's a very, very important question because, boy, it happens all the time. It really, really does. So we have to be crystal clear on what do we want them to be able to tell their partner, spouse, or dog tonight when they get back home, or when they walk upstairs from their home at work experience and someone says, how was that thing you did at 1:00? If you designed it in a way where people can remember your core message, and I think that requires a lot of skill, that oftentimes requires a lot of pruning. Oftentimes what we see show up is this kind of overgrown shrubbery of an experience. There's a beautiful flamingo in there. We just have to curate it a little bit. But what we see is people cutting and pasting massive amounts of text onto slides, and the message is just lost. So for me, and then Maria, I'm going to turn it over to you. It's so critical. What do I want the audience to know, feel, or do? How do I ensure that message lives in their minds? And oftentimes we see people designing presentations where there's no way possible that whatever their core message was will live in people's minds. And for me, that's always just, it's sad because it's such a missed opportunity. There's some really cool content there. There's some important stuff we need people to remember and know and act on. But it's clouded in, I think almost of Pigpen from the Peanuts. It's just, there's just a cloud of other crap that's overgrowing the message.
Yeah, and it's a waste of time. And if we think of, if I think what's our listener presenting to? They're presenting to small business owners on their services, trying to win business.
Yes.
And so if they're not nailing it, guess what? You've wasted your time, you've wasted their time, and you want to win. Our listener wants to win the business. They want to win those great clients. The great clients are going to want a great presentation, and they're going to, and that's this is the, you said it, that millisecond. I mean, it has my palms sweating. Yes. What are they seeing? What's that first impression happening right at the beginning? But then if we're putting them to sleep, we're not likely going to get them excited about working with us. So there's huge implications here.
And Michael, yes. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And ultimately, what does that potential client want to know quickly? What's in it for me? If you do business with me, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're open to it, I'd love to tell you a little bit more. And then you have not a lot of text on the next few slides. You keep it super simple. So that person, when they're with their spouse, partner, or dog that night, the dog says, "Hey, how is that thing you with that potential person to do some work for you? Oh, they can do this, this, and this. It's going to be good. I think that would be great." But, we go into stuff about, oh, this is where we were founded, and this is the history and the background, and this, all kinds of stuff. Cut to the chase and tell them how you can help them, how you can solve their problems. And that's audience-centered design. What does this potential client want to know? I want to know that you're going to be on it, that you're going to be affordable, that we're going to have a relationship, and that you are going to do first-class work for me. Boom. Right? Don't give me 4 slides with a lot of text to tell me that. Maria?
What it comes down to anymore, I believe, is that as a presenter, you have to just reconcile with knowing that people are incredibly busy and are going to be distracted because of everything going on around them, especially if they're working at home. And, as a presenter in person, this is something that we probably never would have been accepting of. We did see when people were on their phones when we were presenting, and we got annoyed with it. Or, someone walked out of the room and, it kind of caught us off guard for a minute, like, where is that person going? But the reality is, with online meetings and sessions, there's a lot that we as presenters cannot control. We can't control when someone in the other person's house is running up to the window and, knocking on the window or saying something. We can't control if the other person forgets to turn off the notifications on their phone. And so it's, going off and dinging every 5 seconds. So as a presenter, you have to learn how to tune that out, in a sense, for one thing, and just accept that you may be competing with a lot of other notifications. But in terms of getting your message across, whether it's to clients, whether it's to a group, whether you're just recording something that you're going to send to someone, what I find are the most important keys are verbal cues and repetition. I was taking notes while we were all talking, and it's important to verbally create a pathway through your presentation, because our attention spans, they wander after, I think it's, what is it, Scott? How many seconds do we have anymore with someone's attention span? It's like 7 seconds or,
we're switching things up in some, think of CNN, or think of any news channel. There's all kinds of things happening on that screen to try and keep your attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what we have to do with our voices. So that can be everything from, a signpost saying, to conclude this presentation, or to give you the most important things to remember about what I can do for your business. hopefully you've learned this about me through our conversation. It's those moments where you are signaling to the other person or the other people who are listening to you, hey, we're moving on to something else, or hey, I want your attention back, or, don't worry, we're almost done. Thank you for listening. Making sure that you have those designed into, not necessarily on your slides, but mostly through what you say. That just shows that you're being conscious of the listener and that you're being conscientious of their time, and knowing that, you don't have them for an hour or 2 hours, that you might only have them for 10 minutes and that you have planned for those 10 minutes or for that half an hour or, whatever it might be.
Or if it's a half hour, maybe your presentation's done in 10 minutes and you say, I know your time's valuable. I certainly don't want to waste it. Here's what I can do for you. Right. What else do you need to know?
Yeah.
Right?
Very interesting. I mean, there's so many things popping up in my head. I'm sure our listener as well. This book, what you're talking about, all of these bits, this is like the book, 40, 50 years ago, it was Dale Carnegie, right? It's like How to Win Friends and Influence People that wanted to learn how to do better, get the promotion, win the business. They were reading those kinds of books. Today, this is the book. This is the book that everyone should be reading and understanding the implications of what's going on during an online presentation and how to nail it.
We agree. We would love for this to be the Dale Carnegie of 2022.
I sure hope so.
We agree.
Well, the more we talk about it, the more I really think that is the case. And I know our listener, I'm always like, whenever we have guests on, I'm always thinking, what's the big outcome? What's the big why for them? And really, this is going to go directly to conversions on clients.
Yes.
It's going to go directly to customer satisfaction because a lot of, this is the opportunity too. Before our bookkeeping business owners were, they were dashing all over the place into the business. They were going into the brick and mortar.
Yep.
Because of COVID. It was happening before COVID, but they were realizing I don't need to be in the office. I don't need to drive over there. All of this stuff is up in the cloud. We can do this all online. But with that, you miss that personal relationship with your clients. So what do you have to do? You have to do something different. I think this is one of those things. You need to up your game around how you connect authentically, emotionally with your clients after the sale. So it's about winning the business, but it's also about making sure you're nurturing the relationship with your presentations and what you're looking like online. A really interesting story that popped into my head as we were talking. This was before COVID, actually, but it was one of our clients did a recording, and in the background, there are all these papers. Like they're a bookkeeper. Their job is to remove the chaos, get everything organized, have all of the financials of a business taken care of and organized properly. Well, it's pretty kind of, it's an interesting brand to have a whole bunch of business papers all scuttled about in the background. But one person who watched that said to me, wow, she really needs to clean up her office. And I know this person. She is meticulous. Meticulous, but it was that one little desk with this stack of papers that were disarray.
Yes.
And that was the brand that was being built as this video was being watched by a lot of people. So this really matters.
Yes.
Yeah. And some people may not, they may see that messy desk and they may not care. They may be like, oh, that doesn't bother me. It seems like they have a lot of work that they're doing. Oh, great. They have a lot of clients that they take care of. But the other interpretation is exactly what you just mentioned. Wow, that person really needs to clean up their office. Or someone may see that and say, gosh, if they're going to be handling the papers for my organization, is that all going to get lost in these stacks of papers? So, there are just so many different ways that people can respond. And that's why it's important to think about all of these elements. What you're wearing, people can respond in different ways. Whatever's in your background, so many different possibilities.
Well, and I know we're a little bit close on time, Michael, but I think I agree with your previous statement. This can be a differentiator. Before we even started recording, we were chit-chatting. Can I build a relationship with you quickly online? And if I can engage in that small talk and build a relationship and talk about Toronto and incredible experiences I've had in the city and why I love the city and how I can't wait to get back, we've built a little bit of a relationship fairly quickly. Well, that's very different than if it's kind of uncomfortable small talk. So I cannot agree with you more that if you master this space, it's going nowhere. It will be some part of us moving forward. And if you can master the space of not only the building relationships piece of it, but also that excellent presentation of really crisp, clean, user-centered presentation with them in mind. Oftentimes we design presentations about what we're going to convey. What we need to do is keep them at the center of the design. What do we need them to know and to help them make the best decision? It's such an opportunity because you know what? 95, 97% of people aren't. So if you master this, it's going to set you apart.
Mm-hmm.
It just will.
Yeah.
It really will. It really will. And it really fits so well with our audience and our listener right now, because this is what they're up to. They are moving more and more virtual. And so they need this. They really do. Your book, I'm excited. The book is Captivation, Online Presentations by Design. Are there other things that you have available, other resources that our listener can obviously get out there, get this book? You've already mentioned, Maria and Scott, that it's audio, it's Kindle, it's hardcover, softcover, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they could buy it on Amazon or wherever people buy their books today.
You bet.
But what about your website, or are there any other things that you'd like to bring to our listeners' attention where they can tuck into this right away and start learning from both of you?
Scott, I'll talk about the social media pages and the blog if you want to mention any other aspects that you want to highlight. We have turned Captivation into a blog. We do have social media sites for Captivation on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And what you'll find in our blog is essentially just very small pieces of the book that we've, taken and put into manageable chunks to read. Like Scott mentioned, we just had a series about voice, and we're always open to ideas. So, if there's something that you would like us to address at some point, please connect with us and let us know. Give us ideas for what to write in the future, maybe a future iteration of the book. But those are some good ways that you can connect with us and to start learning from our material in social media format, in smaller format too. Scott, I'll let you talk about the other elements.
Great. So you can go to www.captovation.ai. So it's a combination of Captivate and Ovation. So captovation.ai. And yes, as Maria said, we have a blog, we have other resources, and we have a podcast. And on that podcast, I'm the host of that experience. And I've had speaking of Dale Carnegie, Michael, I just secured their CEO today to do a podcast that's going to be coming up. But I've been speaking with people from all over the world, people who literally train Zoom's staff, people who are doing trainings for Zoom and Prezi, PowerPoint MVPs. Microsoft has this designation of these individuals around the world who, whether they're in Bulgaria or Cleveland, Ohio, who are just gurus when it comes to PowerPoint. So I've talked to a couple PowerPoint MVPs about what they're seeing. So it's a great way to kind of connect and learn from some people who are in this space and how they're thinking about it. I did a really cool conversation with a gentleman who is in Croatia. He's British, but he's in Croatia. And, going back to that kind of that CNN way of thinking about things, he calls it an attention reset. As he's designing his presentations, he's thinking, okay, how am I going to reset their attention so they get back with me? So Peter Hopwood talks about that. Or Rich Mulholland talks about how he thinks about engaging people online. So that's another resource that we have that has been just a really, really fun project. So the blog, the podcast, and some of our social media handles are great ways to stay in touch.
Super exciting. Lots of resources. I'm excited myself. I know how important this is. It brings up one last little piece of value that I think is happening more and more today than ever before in this industry that we're in here with the bookkeeping, the successful bookkeeper, is that many of our listeners, they teach their clients things. They teach other bookkeepers. They're teaching in the industry. They're putting out social media content, video, how to do things, how to get better at it. This book is going to help them get that even better.
Yes.
So, there's some really great things happening here. And so I really feel like it's been an absolute gift to us to have you both on the show to share some of this gold with us, but as well open up our eyes to all sorts of resources that are available to all of us. So on behalf of our listener, I want to thank you for your generosity in being on the show. Thanks for inviting us.
Michael, we appreciate it. We really, really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for the good work that you're doing. I think is it 270 episodes? That's a feat.
It is 52 every year. We got to knock them out. We got to make sure they're there. We got to make sure they're great for our listeners. So thank you.
So thanks for the service you're doing for the industry, because that's no easy lift. I know.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I have a sneaking suspicion that this is not the last time that our listener will hear from both of you, and that's our hoping. But with that, we're going to say goodbye and thank you again.
Okay.
Great. Well. Thank you.
Beautiful. And that wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about both of our wonderful guests today and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.